أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك ثوغا وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The topic that we have, it's bonding with Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam, and the subtopic that we have tonight, it's the divine calls that will be heard prior to the return of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, one of the questions that's asked quite a lot, it's about this virus, the COVID-19, whether one is faithful or one is faithless. It doesn't matter. It hits everyone, and it doesn't. It's just like you stepping on some glass or pricking a thorn. It isn't as such that if it's an ayatollah or someone who is highly mu'min, they won't be hurt. It's only those who are not. No, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a piece of glass, whether it's a sharp knife, whether it's a thorn, it's going to prick, it's going to hurt, it's going to make bleed. That doesn't make any difference who it is. Likewise, all these illnesses, the problems that we are seeing, facing, mishaps, etc., anyone can see those problems, anyone can see that trouble. So the concept is wrong. The concept is very unwise, or the expectations people have, they are not right. Sometimes they say that all these du'as that we have, all these tawassulat that we have, nothing is happening, nothing is being granted. Doesn't matter, nothing is being granted, nothing happening. The maslahat or the wisdom behind whether the du'as be accepted or not, that is with Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So we haven't hired him or hired the Ma'asumin alayhim salam that we want that granted, we want that to happen. It is not as such. So the role of deen over here is that deen, it cures the internal viruses that we have, the diseases that we have from within, like bokhl, like a person he is tight-fisted, or all these diseases that we have, like accusing, like backbiting, like all the negative traits that a person he has and it shouldn't be having. Deen comes and cures that. Otherwise, these viruses, bacterias, wherever there is a problem, there is an illness, there is a disease, physicians, doctors, it's their job, it's their duty, they have to sort it out, they have to, and we also have to abide by whatever they say. We do have these sayings in Hadithul Qudsiyya, and also if you look back into the history of Ma'sumin, poison, it's bad for you, bad for me, bad for the Ma'sumin. So they were killed by poisons. So saying that being in the haram of a ma'asum doesn't matter. Whether it's the haram of a ma'asum, or whether it's my house, or wherever it is, viruses can get anywhere. So it isn't as such that because it is the haram, because it's a sacred place, viruses can have no access to that. That thought, that mindset, it is wrong. If you look into Quran, prophets, imams also, they were the best of believers, they were the best of the servants of Allah. For example, Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, he went through such a tough time throughout his life, a very difficult time he had throughout his life. And at the same time, we do have a prophet like Prophet Sulaiman, who was the ruler, who was given the charge of so many, who had the charge of the land, of the earth, of the wind, with rule over the man and jinn, so much, that wide, very wide role that Prophet Sulaiman had. But when you see Quran in Surah Sad, both the prophets, that prophet who was suffering and this prophet who wasn't suffering, who had all that height and might, both of them have been mentioned together as Ni'mal Abd, the best of the servants of Allah. Or for example, you see about Abdullah al-Hussein, sometimes he is on the shoulders of the prophet, or when the prophet he is in the state of sajda, he is on the back of the prophet. So it doesn't matter. Here, he is on the prophet, on the shoulders of the prophet, on the back of the prophet when when the prophet is in sajda. And on the day of Ashura, you see that Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, he is under the hooves of the horses. So here, what we learn is that we have to be content, happy with whatever Allah He puts us in whichever state. One of the other questions there is asked is that if a ma'asum is a ma'asum, and if he knew that it's a poison, and they knew what the consequences of affairs will be, and they knew that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, he will be killed in the mosque, and Abu Abdullah al-Hussein will be killed on the day of Ashura in Karbala, then why did they take that route? Why did they do that? In simple words, in easy answers, this knowledge of ghaib or ilm ghaib that ma'asumeen have, it is not permitted for them to use for their personal affairs. Just like these ambulances you see in the streets, so you can't say that this guy, the driver of that ambulance, he can use that ambulance as he wishes, as he pleases. No, he has to use it only when he has to use it. And if even if he jumps the signals and he wasn't in a state of emergency, he gets a ticket. Or for example, all these policemen that you have in the streets, and they have guns and ammunitions, or the soldiers and army, they are all armed. It doesn't mean that they can use their guns, their arms whenever they want. They can't. When they get a command, when they get an order from the higher authorities, only then. Ma'asumeen alayhim salam also, that ilm ghaib that they have, they can use only when the permission is given to them. And that is why we see throughout the lives of Ma'asumeen, never did they use all that ilm ghaib and all, whatever they could for their own personal gains and lives. Or for example, it is reported for Hazrat Fizza salamullahi alayha, who was the maid of Hazrat Fatima alayha salam. When she comes and she joins service, she says that I know all these arts and I have got this talent and I can change metals into gold. When she saw that the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima, they were suffering, they were struggling financially, they were weak, she says, I can do that. And she quickly made some gold and she said, why don't you go and sell this and you can get along with your lives. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he shows her a miracle and she says, we can do much more than that, but we are not meant to do. That is, we are not meant to live our lives by miracles and by using the ilm al-ghaib. Ilm al-ghaib, that science of the unseen, it is only to be used when it is required. So this was a little information about all these questions that are pouring. So it can hit anyone. Viruses can hit anyone. May that be a mu'min, may that be a munafiq. So it doesn't matter. May that be in a mosque, may that be Masjid al-Haram, may that be Karbala or the shrine of Abu Abdullah. Viruses can get anywhere. And it is upon us that we follow the instructions given by the specialist in this field. Now, regarding the zuhur of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam, we've got all these different riwayat. People, they are going after the signs. Now, we don't need to go after the signs, because when Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala wishes and He intends and He desires, He can make all those signs happen overnight, just like what we saw in these past few months, that things just change rapidly and whatever He wants, it's happening. So that what we see most in the riwayat and all the ziyarat that we recite is the land being filled with tyranny. That is, the land being filled with zulm and with jawr, with tyranny. And then ethical issues at a decline, and likewise the religious dimensions we see, and this lifestyle, it will not continue. One of the other things that we do see, one of the terms in the books, it is regarding the concept of Dajjal. And what you've heard, or what is known at large, they say that Dajjal is a smart, one-eyed and a legendary figure. Dajjal is not and someone who will come in the end of time riding a donkey. He will have a one eye in the middle of his forehead, etc. Now all that is wrong. Now many of this stuff has come to our books or has been introduced into Islam, and these are known as Israeliyat. That one of the figures present during the time of the second Khalifa is Ka'b Ahbar. He being the second Khalifa, and being the in charge of the affairs of Muslims, he had a department in his hukumat, just like what we have the department of istifta'at, and the best and the most qualified people, they take the charge of that department. Here, the second Khalifa, he had hired Ka'b Ahbar. Ka'b Ahbar is a Yahudi. Now he is answering questions for the Muslims in the rule of a Muslim. Now most of this stuff that has come in Islam is during the time of the second Khalifa via the Istifta department of the Khalifa, and that is through this Ka'b Ahbar, who himself is a Yahudi. So Dajjal is not a person, but Dajjal is a concept, it is a school, it is an idea, it is a system to cheat, to deceive, to mislead humanity. And it's a whole idea, a concept, a conspiracy. And humanity will be led like the Pied Piper of Hamlin. You've heard the story. Dajjal is that being. Now, when we look into the riwayat here, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and likewise all other prophets. Now, here the quote is from the Prophet. He says that إنه لم يكن نبي بعد نوح إلا أنذر قومه الدجال. That is, there hasn't been any prophet after Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, but that he has warned the people about Dajjal. And I also, like all of them, warn you about Dajjal. And then he says that he will come in the end of time, and all of you, some of you who are here, you will hear and you will see him also, this Dajjal and all his conspiracies. Now, with reference to the same Dajjal, the system or the conspiracies that we will see says that 30 Dajjals will emerge prior to the arrival of the Imam alayhi salam. So Dajjal is not a person. It's all these systems and all these conspiracies or isms, or this banking industry, or all these different industries, media, for example, all of this, each one of them is a Dajjal. Here Rasulullah says that 30 Dajjals will emerge prior to the arrival of the Imam alayhi salam. The hadith says that لا تقوم الساعة حتى يخرج نحو من 60 كذابا. And also another hadith says that 60 fake prophets will emerge, and all of them will say that I am the Messiah, I am the Mahdi. So we have to be alert over here, that you will hear, and many people will pop up saying that I am the Mahdi, I am the awaited Isa. So all that will be fake, all of them. Now what? How do we understand, and who is the true Imam? Inshallah, we'll come to to that point as well. Now, with reference to Dajjal, that what is widely known, that he will ride a donkey, and like means of that will be the means of transport, and he will travel so fast, and he will claim to be the God, and his invitation will be heard by everyone. And he will travel underwater, he will travel with the sun, and in front of him will be a huge mountain of smoke, and people would think that that is food. All these things we do have in riwayat, but when we look into what is happening, the means of transport that we have today, how fast the planes they travel, how fast the submarines they travel underwater, so all of that is understood for us, and it's easier for us to understand that Dajjal is not a being, not a human being, and that Dajjal who everyone will wait with the one eye in his forehead, that Dajjal will never come, and people will just have to wait for him. Now, one of the other things we do find in the riwayat, we do have to interpret and these riwayat, that says that Dajjal, he will have a very big appetite, he will eat a lot. Now, eat a lot, this also contradicts with the aqaid that we have. Allah, he will never create any being, anyone who eats up that much of a food, and when there are so many billions of people living on this planet Earth. So this consumption that we see again in riwayat, it's these huge big budgets and funds that we have for this industry of Dajjal. Like for example, the Hollywood, if you take, they says that the budget that one Hollywood has to run or to make this whole system, and the films and cartoons and all these shows to mislead people, that is much, much more than the budget of many countries. That is that consumption of that Dajjal. So that is what is meant over there, not the food and drink that this Dajjal will eat and consume. So that industry will consume that much. And the other thing is that we see that when he will arrive, people will be struck with poverty, drought, shortage of food supplies that we already see. And that is only to maintain the prices. You see how much of a grain or wheat is dumped into the oceans and into the seas, or just to maintain the prices of oil, what they do, and how much they allow people uh, to pump oil, etc., just to maintain the prices so that the rich remains rich or becomes richer, and the poor goes poorer, and he goes down the poverty line which they have themselves. So riwayat and reports over here, they mention and they talk about that is metaphorical, kinai. For example, when it says that the sun would rise from the west during the time of the zuhur of Imam al-Asir alayhi salam, this also is a very complex issue which contradicts science. Now, here in this day and age, the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. Hadith says that the sun will rise from the west. Does it mean that it is this sun that shines, which rises from the east? It's going to start rising from the west in the end of time or during the time of the zuhur of Imam? That also contradicts science. So that, and it is not even possible. And if it does change route, the sun rising from the east, suddenly it switches and shifts and starts rising from the west, it means that the earth, it has to change its orbit. It means it doesn't, and that won't happen. That gravity forces, everything will fall apart, and this planet, it will just devastate. The entire planet will perish. No one will live on this planet. Or if we say that gradually it's going to shift, rising from the east, and it would rise from the west, that also it's not possible, because the night and day that we have, which is 24 hours, that will also gradually shift, and the night and day, they will become 1 or 2 months long, and that also doesn't add up with the system of wisdom of Allah Ta'ala that He has laid. So what do we mean by the sun rising from the west in the end of time? That also we see that Allah that in a hadith here then talks about the issues and facts that will take place after those events. In a hadith here, the Holy Prophet, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam, he says, إن الذي يصلي خلفه عيسى بن مريم هو الثاني عشر من العترة التاسع من ولد الحسين بن علي. Says, he who behind whom Isa ibn Maryam will offer his prayers is the 12th Imam. And who is he? The 9th son of Hussein ibn Ali. Who is he? Imam says, وَهُوَ الشَّمْسُ الطَّالِعَةِ مِنْ مَغْرِبِهَا. He is the sun who will rise from the west. So sun meaning not the sun which shines, rises from the east. It is Imam al-Asir alayhi salatu wassalam. So Dajjal is a symbolic figure. And here when you look into these riwayat, you have to understand them in this way. So how it may be as such that Dajjal as described in the report. So Dajjal is a figure, a being, a system which cheats, which deceives. How does he do that? With the description of Dajjal is to cheat and to mislead, and all these sophisticated beings, being an oppressor, a zalim, a corrupt. Now all these are things that we find in riwayat of Ma'asumeen alayhim salam. So traveling so fast, that is also possible today with all these supersonic vessels that we have. And then may that be in the sky, or may that be underwater. Now, as they have conquered the space and beyond and assume mankind as their slaves, that is what Dajjal he thinks. And today also when they say that we are going to halt and stop and pause all these mortgages and all these loans that people have borrowed, and we think that they're doing a big favor upon us. There is no favor. Another 6 months of extra slavery we are going to get into. That is, they're going to take the interest or whatever they take, the bank charges, etc. Only the payment that you had to make every month, that is going to be paused for a few months, and then again it's going to restart. So if someone was to retire at this point, he has to work for another 6 months. So it is that slavery system which hasn't been abolished, and this Dajjal works in a way that everyone gets into their control and everyone is in their fist. That Dajjal means that slavery system or taking everyone, which misleads and cheats people. Everything nowadays that we see, that is Dajjal. Now, again, the prices, the expensive commodities, things, cars, mechanical lifestyle, all of that is a part of this Dajjali system that we are in. So simple people will be deceived and misled with all these charms, and this again is another interpretation of the report that we have. Whether we accept it or we don't doesn't really matter. What we see is that the emerging of Sufyani is haq, will definitely happen. Now, this again is another issue. Reports say that this is a person from among the dynasty of Abu Sufyan, and there are others that say that it is a symbolic figure. In either case, when we look back into the history of Islam, he who caused the maximum damage to Islam is Abu Sufyan, who confronted Rasulullah, and after Abu Sufyan is Muawiyah, his son, who confronted Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam Mujtaba alayhim as-salam. And after Muawiyah, it is Yazid ibn Muawiyah who stood against Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and fought Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So this battle between Haqq and Batil always existed, it will exist, it will remain, and this Sufyani is that whole the system or the descendant of Abu Sufyan who will emerge in the end of time. He also could be a person, he may be a person, or that whole system that will fight Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam is what we see in Ayatul Kursi, that we have Awliyaullah on one side, we have Awliya al-Taghut, Awliya al-Shaitan on the other. So these two will always be there, and it is Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam, he will fight Sufyani. Now, with reference to Sufyani, says Amrus Sufyani Hatsmun min Allah wala yakunu qa'imun illa bisufyani. That this emerging of Sufyani is among the definite signs. And the Qa'im, meaning Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam, he will not rise, but that Sufyani also has emerged. Now, in another quote here, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, he says that Ana wa alu Abi Amir al-Mu'mineen states that Ana wa alu Abi Sufyan ahlu baytain. That is, I and the descendants of Abu Sufyan are two houses. Fillah. As he says, Baytain, Ta'adayna fillah. And the reason why we say two houses is that the hate or the animosity or the disassociation between these two houses is based on Allah, Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Rasulullah says, Qulna sadaqallah. We said, Allah has said the truth. Qalu kadhiballah. They said, that is Abu Sufyan, they said, kadhiballah. Allah has lied. Qatala Abu Sufyan Rasulullah. Abu Sufyan, he fought Rasulullah. وقاتل معاوية علي ibn Abi Talib. Muawiyah, he fought Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. وقاتل يزيد ibn Muawiyah al-Hussein. And Yazid, the son of Muawiyah, he fought Hussein ibn Ali alayhim salam. And then says, was Sufyani yuqatil al-Qa'im. And Sufyani, he will fight Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam. So this battle, it is there, it will be there, and it will until the emerging of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam. So this was again a little bit about Dajjal and a little bit about Sufyani. One of the other things that we ought to know here is that regarding the calls that will be heard in the prior to the return of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam, assalamu alayk ya sahib al-zaman. And that call that will be heard, it's known as an-nida, the divine call. And among the definite signs that we have is this call from the sky. And there are numerous signs for the return of our Imam alayhi salam. And the third definite sign is the call from the skies, for which Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam says, النداء من المحتوم. That is nida. The call is among the definite signs. So what happens there? I'll quote you the hadith here from report. The reporter is Somali, and he says that قلت لأبي عبد الله عليه السلام. I said to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Now, whenever you hear the name Abu Abdullah, if it is hadith and riwayat, it means the sixth Imam. And when you hear Abu Abdullah and Masa'ib and Maqatil are being recited, it means Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Kana yaqul, here Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, خروج السفياني من المحتوم. Emerging of Sufyani is among the definite signs. وَالنِّدَاء مِنَ الْمَحْتُومِ. The divine call is among the definite signs. طُلُوعُ الشَّمْسِ مِنَ الْمَغْرِبِ مِنَ الْمَحْتُومِ. The sun emerging from the west is among the definite signs. Sun meaning Imam al-Asr alayhi salam. وأشياء كان يقولها من المحتوم. And there are many other definite signs. فقال أبو عبد الله عليه السلام واختلاف بني فلان من المحتوم. And there will be disunity in the end of time, that is among the definite signs. And قتل النفس الزكية, the murder of that noble soul in Mecca, in Masjid al-Haram, is among the definite signs. And then emerging, rising, appearing of Imam al-Asr alayhi salam is among the definite signs. Min al-mahtum, it will definitely happen. قلت وكيف النداء. The reporter says, I asked the Imam, you mentioned the nida, that is the divine call, and what is that? قال ينادي مناد من السماء. The caller will call from the sky. أول النهار, early in the morning. يسمعه كل قوم بألسنتهم. And everyone will hear that divine call in their own native languages. ألا إن الحق في علي وشيعته. That is, haq and right is with Ali and the followers of Ali. ثم ينادي. So here, when it was mentioned, this battle between haq and batil goes hand in hand. When here Jibraeel, he has the divine call in the morning saying that haq and right is with Ali and his followers, his descendants, the same day there will be a call, and this call will be from Iblis. He also has to misguide. He cannot leave this guidance alone. So wherever there is this, the law of motion, motion that we have, the law of Newton, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Here the action is from haq, inviting people towards haq. Iblis also has to have an action, and that's going to invite people towards batil. And then Iblis says, Fi akhir al-nahar, in the morning it is Jibraeel, and at night it's going to be Iblis. Fi akhir al-nahar min al-ard, he will call from the sky, Iblis will call from the earth, saying, Ala inna al-haq fi Osman wa shi'atih, saying that haq is with Osman and with the followers of Osman. Now here Osman also, riwayat, they said maybe it's Osman bin Ambasa, who is that Sufyani who will emerge and who is from the descendants of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan la'natullahi alayhim ajma'in. فَعِنْدَ ذَلِكَ يَرْتَابُ الْمُبْتَلُونَ, says that it is at that time people will start doubting that there was a call that was heard in the morning, there is a call that is heard here in the evening. That call says haq is with Ali, and this call says haq is with Osman, with Sufyani. So people, they will get confused over here. Now this hadith, it's from Irshad, and has been reported. There are many reporters here. What Quran says? The glorious Quran says, وَاسْتَمِعْ يَوْمَ يُنَادِ الْمُنَادِي مِنْ مَكَانٍ قَرِيبٍ. Listen to the day when the crier shall cry from a near place. And then the following ayah says, يَوْمَ يَسْمَعُونَ الصَّيْحَةَ بِالْحَقِّ ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُرُوجِ. The day when they shall hear the cry in truth, that is the day of coming forth. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he interprets this ayah, says that sayhatul qa'imi min as-sama, The first ayah, and the ayah said, يَوْمَ يَسْمَعُونَ الصَّيْحَةَ بِالْحَقِّ. People, they will hear the call, and that's going to be haq, and that's going to be right. Here, that is the cry and call and invitation of Al-Qa'im min as-sama. That is the invite of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam from the sky. Furthermore, Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, he says that Khuruju waladi al-Qa'im al-Mahdi, the first call which you will hear, that is going to be, what is that? It is the day of my son's coming forth. You hear the call from the sky, and that is an invitation, or that is that glad tiding, or that is that notification to you that my son, he is emerging, he is coming forth. And then in Surah Al-Shu'ara, ayah number 4 says that إن نشأ ننزل عليهم من السماء آية فظلت أعناقهم لها خاضعين. If we wish, we will send down to them a sign from the sky, before which their heads will remain bowed down in humility. Now, when they hear this call from the sky, everyone will be amazed. So, two calls, one in the morning, one at night. And when will this call be? Again, Ma'asumin alayhim salam, they have identified clearly when will that call be. Says the night of Qadr. It's going to be Thursday, 23rd of the month of Ramadan. And says that those who will be asleep by hearing the call, they will wake up. Those who were standing, they will sit. Those who were sitting, they will be shunned, they would be frozen. And it will be the Mubarak voice of the trustworthy Jibreel alayhi salam. And the third definite sign is a call that will be heard by everyone in their own native language. Now, ahadith say that when you hear the call from the sky, and then you say labbaik to that call, the first step of yours out of your home, the second step will be with the Imam alayhi salam. Now, if we start calculating what shall we do with the food stuff, the family, the shopping, the grocery, we can't go out. It's Corona and it's have the social distancing. Someone who will start adding up all this stuff, it's going to be the loser. Says the moment you hear, say labbaik to the call, and the next step of yours will be with the Imam alayhi salam. Now, it will be the Mubarak voice of the trustworthy Jibreel, and that is the third definite sign, a call that will be heard by everyone in their own native language. Ali ibn Ibrahim, in another report, he says that Ali ibn Ibrahim reports from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, says the caller's call would say and would identify the name of Al-Qa'im and his father's name, that is Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Askari, like that. Now, some riwayat say that it's going to be a call, the name will not be identified, but anyway, that is going to be mentioned, it will be a call, everyone will hear in their own native language. Now, how it will be presented, the name, and how the idea of the Imam will be mentioned, there over here we have different riwayat. The day you will hear this call is the day he will rise and start his move. Says yakunu sawt, when will that be? Fi shahri Ramadan, in the month of Ramadan. The reporter says that qultu Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. I said Ramadan. Imam replied Shahrullah, the month of Allah. And then says wafihi yunadi bi ismi sahibikum wa ismi abi. And the caller would invite and would call with the name of your master and the name of his father, that is the father of the master. Sayhatun min as-sama fi shahri Ramadan further emphasizes that the call will be in the month of Ramadan. Hatta yunadi bi ismihi min jawf as-sama fi laylatin thalath wa ishrin fi shahri Ramadan, on the 23rd of the month of Ramadan. Yunadi ismuhu Layla. And then again it emphasizes much more on that same 23rd and the month of Ramadan. Now, elsewhere says that Yunadi min as-sama bi ismi rajulin. In other reports say that the caller would say that he has arrived, so without mentioning the name. And who is he? Min wuldi Ali ibn Abi Talib, from the sons, from the descendants of Ali ibn Abi Talib. So the call from the sky will address him as a man from the progeny of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and elsewhere says, indeed, this is Mahdi, obey him. Inna hada Mahdiyun fattabi'uh. That the caller would say from the sky, this is Mahdi. You must be obedient to him, follow him, be obedient to him. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, Yunadi min as-sama bi-ism al-Qa'im. Imam says that the name of Al-Qa'im will be mentioned from the skies. Will a particular group hear this call? The reporter asked. Imam says, Ghamun. Kullu qawmin yasma'u kullu qawmin bilisanihim. It is going to be a general call. Everyone, every part of this earth may they be, whatever their faiths be, whatever their language be, Imam says they will hear the call in their own native language. The caller will say, your master is Mahdi. Assalamu alayk, ya sahib al-zaman. Your master is Mahdi. He will fill the land with equity and justice as it was filled with zulm and oppression, with tyranny and oppression. Says the reporter, when shall we expect this call? Imam Baqir alayhi salam replies, says, from the east and the west mankind will disunite. Followers of the Qibla, that is the Muslims, they will disunite. People will suffer from insecurity, which we are already. And it will be then when this call will be heard, what do we do then? Imam says, do not delay. Respond to the call. Two calls will attract the people. Jibreel from the sky in the morning and Iblis from the earth in the evening. This will be the satanic Sufyani move. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he says that Allah has brought the deadline of the unjust, of the zalimeen, to an end. Now all of these zalimeen that we see on this planet earth, so many tughat, so many taghuts, none of them has any mercy towards any faith, any religion, to humanity at large. So all these zalimeen, the expiration date of all of them has drawn near, and all of them, select all, will be doomed, will be removed from the surface of this dunya. They want a rule so that they dominate over everyone. Everyone is their slave, and that is based on merciless, being merciless. But Allah wants a rule on this globe, on this planet earth. Says, لَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. That we want, Allah has desired, that it is the righteous who will be ruling on this planet earth. And that righteous Salihin, أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. That is Salihun, the righteous, the noble, they will inherit this land. And who is the most righteous today is Aba Salih, Imam al-Asr, alayhi salatu wassalam. Assalamu alayk ya sahib al-zaman. So the caller from the sky would say, go to him, join him, get to him to Mecca. When will that be? Again here the Prophet, he says that yakunu sawt fi shahri Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan you will hear fi laylati Jum'atin, on a Thursday night, and the night of the 23rd of the month of Ramadan. Fala tashukku. When you hear that call, do not doubt. Fi dhalik wasma'u wa ati'u. Listen to it and then be obedient to him. Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he says that the caller from the sky would say, indeed Mahdi is from the descendants of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and will identify himself and his name and his father. Another quote from Imam, our sixth Imam, he says that Inna Aliyan wa Shi'atahu humul faizun. Indeed, Ali and his followers, that is his Shias, they are the ones who will be prosperous. One of the other miracles or one of the other happenings that would unfold on that when you hear the call is that riwayat, they say, now there are so many books written on this topic. Malahim wal Fitan, you don't have it in English. There's another book written by Sheikh Ali Qurani, a beautiful book written on Asr's Zuhur, that is the era of the Zuhur or the return of Imam al-Asr alayhi salam, and I believe they've translated that in English. You have it in Urdu, you have it in Farsi, in so many other languages that it has been translated. It's a small book. It's very nice, very interesting. You can search and find it online. It's called Asr Zuhur, and it's written by Sheikh Ali Kurani. Now he mentions that when you hear the call, you would also see a hand will emerge and appear in the sky. وَتَطْلَعُ كَفٌّ فِي السَّمَاءِ. A hand will appear in the sky, and that hand would identify and say and direct everyone, saying that and we do have the ayat in Quran which say اقترب الوعد الحق فإذا هي شاخصة أبصار الذين كفروا, says that, and the true promise draws near to its fulfillment, and the faithless will look on with a fixed gaze. Says ثم يظهر كف, that is, a hand will appear in the sky. وفيها قلم. There is another report which says that there will be a pen and a paper, and it will write on that, and people will even hear the squeaking of the pen on that tablet, on that paper. وَالنَّاسِ يَسْمَعُونَ ضَرِيرَ الْقَلَمِ وَهُوَ يَقُولُ. What would that say? It says وَاقْتَرَبَ الْوَعْدُ الْحَقِّ. And that hand will say that وَاقْتَرَبَ الْوَعْدُ الْحَقِّ, which is an ayah of Quran, that the true promise of Allah, of Haqq, has drawn near. فَإِذَا هِيَ شَاخِصَةٌ أَبْصَارُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. And the faithless, they will look on it with a fixed gaze. Our fifth Imam, he says that a hand will appear in the sky saying, upon you is his obedience. That is the obedience of Imam. Indeed, this is Mahdi. Follow him, be obedient to him. Assalamu alayk ya sahib al-zaman. Ala inna hujjat Allah qad zahar fattabi'uh. Another quote from our eighth Imam, he says that indeed your hujjah, your master, your argument, he has arrived. Go and follow him. Now that is regarding the miracles that will appear. That is the call that will be heard in the month of Ramadan, and everyone will see that hand that will emerge in the skies. Now Imam, after this call that will be heard, it won't take too long that Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, he also will arrive soon after that. Now how soon? Some say that maybe 2 months and 17 days, or soon after that, whenever that is. But other riwayat, they do say that it's going to be the day of Ashura, when Imam, he will rise and he will stand. And where will he come? He will come to Mecca, and that is facing against the Kaaba. And he will have 5 calls. The voice of the Imam alayhi salam resembles that of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and he will rise on the day of Ashura, pleased by the Imam's calls. The chaste women and girls, they will encourage their fathers, brothers and husbands to go and join the Imam alayhi salam. What is our duty at that time? Is to listen and to be obedient. Listen and obey. Not to put any breaks and any excuses in the middle. Listen and jump and say labbaik ya sahib al-zaman, and join him. His voice resembles the voice of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and facing against the Kaaba, he will have 5 calls. The first would say, Ala ya ahl al-alam, ana al-imam al-qa'im, O inhabitants of the universe, I am that Imam al-Qa'im. Ala ya ahl al-alam, ana as-samsam al-muntaqim, I am that avenging sword. Ala ya ahl al-alam, Inna jaddi al-Husayn qataluhu atshana. O inhabitants of the universe, indeed my grandfather Hussein was killed thirsty. The 4th call would be Ala ya ahl al-alam, Inna jaddi al-Husayn tarahuhu udwana tarahuhu uryana. Ala ya ahl al-alam, Inna jaddi al-Husayn tarahuhu uryana. Indeed, my grandfather Hussein was abandoned uncovered. And the 5th call would be Ala ya ahl al-alam, inna jaddi al-Hussein sahaquhu udwana. O inhabitants of the universe, indeed my grandfather Hussein was pounded due to hate. Now these are the calls that we have from Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, that will be heard when he arrives by the Kaaba, facing against the Kaaba. He will have these 5 calls. So this bond between Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and Imam al-Asr, And likewise between Abu Abdullah and Rasulullah. And when you see that we have a prophet, we have an Imam, which is Abu Abdullah, and then we have this concept of Mahdawiyyat. And all these three that are being targeted today, that somehow create doubts in the minds of people, so they are weak in this aqidah of Mahdawiyyat, so that they become weak with this belief that they have towards Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. So we have to be strong here, strong meaning that we have to learn and increase our ma'rifat towards the Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, we talked about these calls that will be heard in the end of time, and that is, and we ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to remove all these firewalls that are between us and Him, all these barriers that hinder between this haqq getting to us, and make it as such that our seeing, our hearing, and all our senses, they are clear from every evil, so that that message and the messenger of haqq, it gets to us instantly. When you look into this hadith, Lawh Fatima, I recited that the other day, and part of that, I'll just recite a few phrases from this beautiful hadith. And upon the birth of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, I wanted to share the screen, but for some reason it wasn't going through. It doesn't matter. Well, here in this hadith Lawh Fatima, that upon the birth of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he says, now the hadith is being reported from our fifth Imam. Imam Baqir alayhi salam is the fifth Imam, and then he is and Jabir is the companion of Rasulullah, and who lived for such a long time. And Rasulullah had mentioned that you would live for long and you will see my great grandson from the descendants of Hussein, and I want you to convey my salam to him. And he did so. That Jabir, he witnessed 5 Imams and Imam Baqir. Imam Baqir alayhi salam says that, Jabir, I want to see you. That is, you when you've reported a hadith and I want to see and check it out. Jabir says, okay, whenever you want, I can come to you. Now here I don't remember whether Imam came to him or he went to the Imam. Well, he comes and sees the Imam and says that this is the hadith that I had reported and recorded from your grandfather Hussein. And then he says that upon the birth of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, like every other well-wisher, I too went to see him in Medina. Then when I went there, I saw that there is Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha, she is present, and Rasulullah is there, and there is a tablet which is by Hazrat Fatima. There is a tablet by Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha. No, this one. What does it say? No, what's the name on that?
Farsi, Arabic.
Yeah, okay. This is what happens.
Okay, well, it's showing. It's showing.
I can't see them.
You can see them.
Okay.
When you click this, it's gonna be
Okay. So you can see that hadith now, and that is the hadith Lawh Fatima. You can even check it out online, but you won't find it in English. I've just translated just parts of it that I want to talk about. Now here he says that I came to Hazrat Fatima salamullahi alayha to greet her and to congratulate her upon the birth of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And I see that there is a tablet by her, and which is glowing like the glowing of the sun. And I see that in green letters and green like emeralds written on it. I asked her, what is that? She says this is the Lawh, or in our language we can say this is the birth certificate that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala issued upon the birth of Hussein, my son, and via Jibreel he got it delivered to my father, and my father gave it to me. Jabir says, can I have a look at it? I want to record it. She says, yes, you can see. He picks up that Lawh, that tablet, and records the entire hadith. So this is that entire hadith. It's quite a lengthy hadith, and the whole hadith, it talks about the mission of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala that he had, that is when he sent the Prophet. And then after the Prophet, the whole system and of guidance and imamat continues. Now here, هذا كتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم. It's a note from Allah, the Mighty. who لمحمد نبيه ونوره وسفيره, to his envoy, his Habib, his beloved Muhammad, who is his ambassador, وحجابه ودليله, his guide and his evidence. نزل به الروح الأمين, روح الأمين Jibreel, he brings forth this to the Prophet from where? من عند رب العالمين, from the Almighty Allah. And then says, عظم يا محمد أسمائي, O Muhammad, exalt my names. Washkur na'mai, be thankful to these blessings. Wala tajhad alai inni, and Allah, indeed I am Allah, there is no one but me. Ana qasimul jabbarin, the mighty, and who will break all of these oppressors. Wa mudilul mazlumin, and I am the one who will be the support of the of the mazlumin. And continues and comes to this point that when Rasulullah, he created that, and after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, he chooses Amirul Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam as the successor after the Prophet, and then says after Amirul Mu'mineen it is Imam Mujtaba. Says, Akramtuka bishiblayka wa sibtayk, I exalted you, I honored you, the Prophet, with your two grandsons. And who are they? Al-Hasan wal-Husayn, Hasan and Husayn. فَجَعَلْتُ حَسَنًا مَعْدِنَ عِلْمِي, I made Hasan the treasurer of my knowledge, بَعْدَ إِنْقِضَاءِ مُدَّةِ أَبِيهِ, after his father. Says after that, the red one, وَجَعَلْتُ حُسَيْنًا خَازِنَ وَحْيِي, I've made Husayn the treasurer of my revelation. وَأَكْرَمْتُهُ بِالشَّهَادَةِ وَخَتَمْتُ لَهُ بِالسَّعَادَةِ, I honored him with martyrdom, with shahada, and I sealed for him a good end, and I decreed for him a good end. And he is indeed the best of martyrs, the loftiest of all the martyrs in rank, and I have placed my ultimate word with him, with Hussein. And then says, Imamat Tawheed, and all perfection to him I bestowed, and my decisive argument is with him I have placed. And through him and his descendants I will punish and I will reward the doers of good and bad. So Imam Hussein has been made as the scale of balance, or as the mizan, that if anyone is to be rewarded and punished, it is Hussein and the descendants of Hussein. Whoever is with him and his descendants are the ones who will be the prosperous. Here Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says. And then talks about all other Imams. Every single Imam has been mentioned. Now this blue part, you see, it is regarding Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Now among the Imams, one of the luckiest ones is our sixth Imam Sadiq. Lucky meaning that he had the most following. 4,000 students he has. And these 4,000 students that we say, we've got the register of all the names of the students who used to participate. Every single student of the Imam has been recorded. With reference to the sixth Imam, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, Haqqul qawl minni la'akrimanna maswa Ja'far la'asurrannahu fi ashya'ihi wa ansarih wa awliya'ih. That this is my word. That word is haqq and all right. I swear, there's so much of emphasis in that Arabic phrase there, says, I swear that I will honor this rank and this station of Ja'far, son of Muhammad. How will I honor and exalt? Says, through his Shias, that I will make him happy through his Shias and his supporters. And who are they? His custodians, his friends, his faithful. Now, the term used over here, awliya. Awliya could be custodians, could be friends, could be faithful, whatever. So I've used all three of them there. Supporters and his custodians. Now that is regarding our sixth Imam. Allah says, I will make him happy through his following, through his support. Now when we come and see the last part of this beautiful hadith, says that it comes to the point where he wants to talk about the 12th Imam. وَالشَّاهِدْ فِي خَلْقِي وَأَمِينِي عَلَى وَحْيِي أخرج منه الداعي إلى سبيلي والخازن لعلمي الحسن. Now comes to the 11th Imam, that is, who is a witness from of Allah wa Ta'ala, His creation, His trust, and His trustee of revelation of Wahi. And then says, the 12th Imam that we come to, وَأَكْمِلُوا ذَلِكَ بِإِبْنِهِ مِيم ha mim dal. Says, I complete and conclude this chain of guidance with the 12th Imam. And who is he? Now, one of the adab that Allah wa Ta'ala teaches us when it comes to the 12th Imam is that you don't address him by his first name. His first name is that of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, and you do not mention that name. So Allah, He teaches us, if you want to write the name of the Imam, you have to write it hyphenated or in broken letters. If in English you want to write, you write it as Muhammad, such that it's not in one word. Even Arabic, he says that write it in that way. That is, that height of adab Allah wa Ta'ala has observed for the Imam. Says, he is rahmatun lil alameen, mercy to the worlds. Who is he? Alayhi kamalu Musa. He carries the perfection of Musa. Baha'u Isa, the greatness of Isa, the patience of Ayyub. He will emerge in an era when my friends will be disgraced. If you see there for the 6th Imam, Allah says the followers of the 6th Imam, I will make him happy through his friends, through his following. But when it comes to the followers of the 12th Imam, that is you and me, Allah says, my friends, the friends of Allah. Or in another hadith here we have that Rasulullah all of a sudden amidst his companions, he says, Allahumma laqqini ikhwati, Allah make me meet my brothers. Now those present in that majlis, they say, Ya Rasulullah, and who are we not your brothers? Rasulullah says, no, you are my ashab, you are my companions. My brothers are the people of the end of time. Says, who are they? They are those who will have faith in me, not seeing me. They are those who will be obedient to me and who will have this iman in God in ghaib without seeing any of it. Says, they are my brothers. And then says, in the end of time, for you to protect and safeguard your iman, it is going to be so difficult, like holding flares of fire on your palm. How tough that is. Says, these people in the end of time, they will save their iman. They will be faithful to me. They will be faithful to ghaib. And here Allah wa Ta'ala addressing them says that, Ulaika awliya'i haqqan. Indeed, they are my awliya. Indeed, they are my awliya, my custodians, my friends. And then he says that, Bihim adfa'u kulli fitnatin amiya. That is, through these friends of Allah, says, I will put away every fitna, every difficulty that people are facing. Now this again, to understand how he does it. Now we've got all these stories and incidents that have been mentioned in the past. Now why do we go so back? Now if we look into this time and age that we are living in, if you look into the biographies of these noble shuhada who sacrificed themselves for the haram of Ma'sumin alayhim salam, or for example in that sacred defense, you have such beautiful personalities. One of them who just passed away is Shaheed Sulaimani. He has this wasiyah and he says that I want to be buried besides Shaheed Yusuf Ilahi. Now who is this Shaheed Yusuf Ilahi? He is a young lad, 23 or his late 20s, or his age, 24 years old he is. He says, I want to be buried next to him. Now this Shaheed Sulaimani is plus 60, is 63 years old. He says, I want to be buried by this Shaheed Yusuf Ilahi. Now this Shaheed Yusuf Ilahi, according to the sayings of Imam Khomeini, says he is someone who got to his destination, which is centuries ahead, in a blink of an eye, or overnight he got to his destination. And these people who were burying the Sayyid who was in charge of clearing the grave of Shahid Sulaimani. The grave was a very small grave, it wasn't even a full size grave. He says that because the grave was so tiny, I told them, let's scrape the grave from both sides so that we get a few centimeters extra space so that we can bury the body of this pure body of this shaheed with a little bit more comfort. He says we were so cautious, we scraped one side of the grave and we got a few centimeters extra. And when I was scraping the wall towards the grave of Shaheed Yusuf Ilahi, says that a few of those bricks they fell. They fell, and I saw the body of this Shaheed. Says he was facing towards the Qibla. I couldn't see his face, but I could see his entire body, which is all intact. All intact. Says I could see the kafan of this Shaheed, which hasn't been, even the dirt of the grave also hasn't settled on it. It's just fresh, clean, white kafan as if it has been laid to rest just this morning. Now, this is an incident which takes place after 35 years, and after 35 years when this Shaheed is to be laid to rest. Now, these great personalities, or when we look into the lives of these Shuhada, again in this interview that was broadcasted before the Shahadat of this Shaheed, says that one of these Shuhada, and uh, we were struggling on those battlefields, and we did not know what to do, to go ahead, to retrieve, or to wait there and die. Says I came to one of them. I thought he is dead, but when I come to him, he gives me a message. Says that go 40 steps towards the right and 40 steps towards the left, and you will be safe. We did as he said exactly. We counted and all those 40 steps. So cautious we were, and we were out of that danger. Says in the morning, then when every one of us came out, we saw that the entire land where we had we not followed the instructions of that Shaheed, all of us would have died. Says, and how was that message given to him? Says Hazrat Fatima Salamullahi alayha, when he seeks tawassul to Hazrat Zahra alayha salam, she says, go 40 feet towards that direction, another 40 feet towards that direction, and you will be safe. Now, when you look into this beautiful hadith, Lawh Fatima Salamullahi alayha, where Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, Ulaika awliyai haqqan, they are my custodians, they are my friends. And then says, Bihim adfa'u kulla fitnatin amya, and through them I will remove every conspiracy. The enemies of Allah, they will bring forth all of that. I will clear them, I will remove them. Through them, the conspiracies of the enemies of Allah will be disclosed. And soon, inshallah, this conspiracy also which has unfolded, and mankind in such large numbers is seeing so much, is suffering so much, all of this will be disclosed and will be revealed. How? Through the awliya of Allah, who are the servants of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam. Bihim adfa'u kull fitnatin amya. And then continues with that hadith that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He says that through them mankind will be relieved from slavery, and upon them be the salutations and mercy of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. Indeed, they are the guided ones. Ulaika humul muhtadun. Beautiful hadith, and the support of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is there for mu'mineen. Mu'mineen, they do not need to worry, although it's a tough time everyone is going through. But that what eases and makes us happy is that the end of this dark tunnel is light. And all these du'as also that we see, that we recite in this day and age, they give us so much hope. For example, that dua of that 7 ayat, that we have to have that faith and aqidah and yaqeen and belief that everything is happening through Him. He knows what is happening. He knows that everyone is suffering. It says, قُلْ لَن يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا. That what has been written, that will happen, that will unfold before you. هُوَ مَوْلَانَا. He is our master. وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And upon Allah, these believers, they rely. وَإِنْ يَمْسَسْكَ اللَّهُ بِضُرٍّ فَلَا كَاشِفَ لَهُ إِلَّا هُ. If Allah intends the bad for someone, He wants to harm someone, says If no matter what a person wants to do to reverse it, that cannot be reversed. فَلَا كَاشِفَ لَهُ إِلَّهُ, but that he does, he intends that harm or that injury or that mishap be reversed. وَإِنْ يُرِدْكَ بِخَيْرٍ, if Allah has intended the good for you, says فَلَا رَادَّ لِفَضْلِهِ, that good of Allah, no one can hinder, no one can stop. It is to get to you, it will get to you. No matter how much people they try and they strive to put it away, they cannot. به من يشاء من عباده وهو الغفور الرحيم. Indeed, He is oft forgiving, merciful. And then says this rizq of every creation of Allah, He provides, He gives that sustenance of everyone gets. وكأي من دابة لا تحمل رزقها الله يرزقها وإياكم. Every creation you see, Allah provides the sustenance, the rizq, and Allah يرزقه. He feeds them and He feeds you. وهو السميع العليم. May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala help us understand these glorious teachings and sayings of Ma'asumeen alayhim salam. Increase this iman that we have in Him, and these sayings of Ma'asumeen and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, make it as such that we have faith in them, believe in them, and we be among those fortunate people that hear this divine call of Imam al-Asr alayhi salam, and among those we be that we respond to that call, and we are raised with the Imam, resurrected with the Imam, and we seek shahadat in the service of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Any questions? I'm here to answer.